So, if you've been watching like American US commentators or political commentators really since the end of the election, there has been a continuing thread pop up time after time after time through all these conversations. It has come down to one single thing that they keep on talking about. Mostly it has to do with Joe Rogan. Now, of course, most of them will say, well, hold on, this Joe Rogan appearance that Donald Trump did was, by all intents and purposes, swung a lot of people. Swung a lot of people. And there is a lot of people that criticize Rogan for doing what he did. Even he said on his own show months back, not even months back, years back, that he was terrified of having someone like that on his channel because he would be afraid that he would humanize Trump and make them appear somewhat legitimate, someone, good in a way. And yes, that's sort of what happens. It's sort of massively what happened. And then there was a really good conversation with a guy called Kyle Kalinske and Vosh. I think it was like a day or two after the election, but well worth watching the conversation. And one of the things that Kyle gets into, he really gets into the fact that I can't stand our independent media anymore because it's very clear, becoming ever more evident now, it has been bought. And that he was fed up of going on these podcasts where they were very, very clearly not openly right-wing, but they would say and support right-wing stuff that Republicans would say, Donald Trump would say. And he would say was fed up of having to lead these people, along the garden path to show them why they were wrong. To constantly be like, you are wrong. But as even he said, because he went on Joe Rogan's show as well, fed up of the fact being on Joe Rogan's show multiple times, explaining, what was going on in the Biden administration, where the Biden administration, despite what Trump would say and what most Americans seem to think because of the, election, Biden had done a very, very good job on the economy. Very good indeed. But they did a disastrous job actually communicating that fact, mostly because you had American media, the news infrastructure, pretty much openly dominated by right-wing sources. And the disappointment and now the capturing of so-called independent media. And at this point, it's no longer independent. Because you've got big people like Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire, who, again, class themselves, we're independent media. No, they're not. They have right-wing funding, money backing them up to their hilt. One of the biggest stories that came out was the whole tenant media thing, where we saw Russian money flowing into these right-wing influencers, Dave Rubin, Tim Pool, because they were saying what Russia wanted them to say and would pay them handsomely, very handsomely to do so. So this now, of course, must now turn around to the UK. And I think we should ask ourselves, how similar of a media landscape do we have to America? Well, first of all, our media landscape, wildly different. For example, talk radio. Talk radio has been dominated by the right. In fact, I did a video a long time ago about how Rush Limbaugh, was like the king of talk radio, and that he had the power to, if conservatives were ever fighting or anything like that, he would go on his radio show, he would call them idiots, tell them to stop fighting, and the fighting would stop. That's the kind of power he had. And I asked, well, who else maybe would have the power on the right in America to do that now? There ain't anyone I can really think of that has that power, because we've seen scuffles break out between right-wing media personalities, but no one stepped in and said, hey, guys, you need to stop this. So that certainly hasn't happened. But still to this day, talk radio dominated. Fox News pretty much dominates, the right wing, media agenda, constantly on that. Most papers in America very much do have a right wing spin. And of course, now independent media, especially if it's a sort of American focused, American political commentators dominate pretty much that area of space. The UK, obviously, we've got the BBC, and this is going to come to Question Time. Just a lot of people, what they get wrong about Question Time is, even though Question Time is on the BBC for quite a while, and I mean quite a while, Question Time has not been produced by the BBC. It is produced by an outside company. And I suppose this brings us around to, of course, the many appearances of Nigel Farage. What was it? I think Femi clocked it at 38 appearances this year. I know, 38 appearances this year on Question Time. Now, I do not mind if Nigel Farage is on Question Time. That is fine. What I think should happen is that Question Time, or at least the people behind Question Time, need to ensure that there is a guest like Alistair Campbell who is strong enough to push back against Nigel Farage, because that's what you saw on the recent Question Time where they sort of interacted. And you've seen all the media doing the rounds. Alistair Campbell did an absolutely fantastic job, but he could have gone even harder against Farage, especially when Nigel's interrupting him, because he could turn around, and I think this would have been the absolute kicker for Farage. He should have, Campbell should have turned around and said, "Oh, see, look at this supposed free speech advocate trying to silence me." That would have been a real kicker in Farage. That would have shut him up. I'd have liked to have seen that employed against him, because you could turn around so much stuff on Farage that he has said over the years. But Alistair Campbell, I think, did a very, very good job. And I would like to see that more often. That if you are going to have someone like Nigel Farage on Question Time, then I think it should be the job of the media agency that is responsible for Question Time to make sure they are getting people on that panel that is, someone strong who can push back against Farage. Very often in past appearances, that has not been the case. However, especially in our news media landscape, we don't really have talk radio. Radio is not, it is still a popular medium in the UK. However, it's more music rather than talk radio. We've only really got LBC and talk radio. Literally talk radio, but even talk radio is very, very right wing. LBC, bit of a mix throughout the day. However, TV, most of it's all publicly owned, not very sort of captured by the right wing. Yes, we've got GB News, but GB News, when you look at its viewing figures, is nowhere near anything like that from Fox News. But as I've said before, it's got big money backers who want to turn it into like the UK version of Fox News. Has that succeeded? Not when you look at the viewing figures. Not when it's bleeding money hand over fist. Because even Fox News, back in its early days, when Rupert Murdoch took it over, that very quickly changed. That has not been the case for GB News. Obviously, you look at newspapers in particular, that is easily one area I think the left really needs to focus on. Like, how can we make more, left-wing newspapers, or get into these left-wing into these newspapers and push them in a way that they have to do, a lot more, nuanced content and things like that. But that is sort of the way I see sort of media. And one of the things I would actually love to say, I don't know if this has ever happened, but I think Question Time should actually start to look online and start to pick out guests that it can have from the online spaces. I don't think that's ever really happened. I don't think they've ever even gone, because you could go to someone like Politics Joe and have someone like from there. I've never seen them do that. That would be interesting. Novara Media, I think they have had some people on, but that was in the past before they became Novara Media. But it'd be interesting to see them actually get someone from Novara Media and put them on Question Time. That would be interesting to see. I'd like to see that, even though I have problems with Novara Media. For it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I'd be interested to see what you guys think. Do you think the UK media landscape is as bought as the American one is? I don't really think it is. From at least my view from looking at it. But like I say, I'm willing to be proved wrong. But I think our media landscape, when it comes to newspapers, I will 100% agree, because there's only really, Guardian, Observer. Observer's just been bought by the Tortoise, by the way. We just learned that a couple of hours ago. So that is probably going to have a very left-wing slant to it now. So we'll see what happens. But I don't think we are as bought, shall we say, in the UK, certainly as America is. But there is also that influence of, a lot of people will watch American content and not even realize it. So there is that as well, that, that American media will seep into the, the UK in some way, shape, or form. But let me know what you guys think. So, as always, like I say, click the like, click the share button. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.